This week's keywords are supply chain responsibility, externalized costs, and greenwashing. So we start with supply chain responsibility. Supply chain responsibility has to do with, well, responsibility, that's clear, because corporate social responsibility implies a moral responsibility for what the effects are of your behavior on society. And this is a broad responsibility because it also has to do with what happens in the supply chain. And why is this? Well, because when you are, especially a big company, you can be held responsible for everything that happens in the full supply chain. And this is so because in the end you are the reason for all activities that take place in the supply chain. And because as a company you are able in gathering all relevant information, and well, and because of this, because of your position, you also have the power to change things. Well, you can, as buyer, can say, well, I only want to buy this stuff when you are producing in a more responsible way. So supply chain responsibility has to do with system thinking. So competency S is system, being system oriented. So when you are, you must be aware of the things, or the chain of actions you are part of, and that you can influence everything that happens in the chain you're operating in. So as an example, you could say, well, Hennes and Maurits has a supply chain responsibility for the labor conditions in Bangladesh. So when something happens in Bangladesh, when a factory is burning down and thousands of hundreds of people are dying, this is a responsibility of Hennes and Maurits. But also, for instance, for water pollution that takes place in Bangladesh. You could say that supply chain responsibility is one of the instruments that can be used to prevent the externalizing of costs by companies. And what is meant by externalizing costs? Well, externalizing costs is letting others bear the disadvantages of the operations of your organizations. So in the example of Hennes and Maurits, well, they are producing cheap clothes and can sell them and make profit, but the disadvantage of their operation is externalized to people in Bangladesh, or to the people of Bangladesh in case of the water pollution. So even in the Netherlands, you can say, well, or in any country, companies do externalize some costs, and even very high costs. So the most used example is the cheap fossil energy, because of this cheap fossil energy, companies can produce stuff for low prices and sell them and make profit. But because of the climate change, by using fossil fuel, there's carbon dioxide in the atmosphere, and we get climate change and we get melting poles. And because of this, we get higher sea levels. And because of that, of course, we need to make our dikes higher. And this is a very expensive thing to do. These expenses, however, are not made by this company, but are made by others. For instance, the taxpayers. So one of the important things about improving sustainability is thinking about the ways we can internalize costs. So for instance, the idea the polluter has to be the one that pays, because otherwise there are others to pay. So one of the main challenges of sustainability is thinking about ways to prevent that it is possible to externalize costs. And then we come to the last keyword of this week, that is greenwashing. And by greenwashing we mean that companies claim to be green, but in reality aren't. And we use this word greenwashing because we say, well, they are greenwashing their dirty activities.